Hi everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Stellaris. So, let's continue where we left off. Our society research is pretty much done, we just need one more month, and this will unlock the colony ship. As well as capacity overload edict, but we will not be using that one. At least not anytime soon. And there it is. So that means we can build a colony ship now, and that's going to cost us 350 minerals. These things are not cheap. We'll just have to wait a bit, as you can see, 350. As for our next research, we can get +1 monthly influence, that's actually really nice. And propaganda broadcasts edict, which is +10% happiness. So influence can be really important early on, because not only it's used for edicts, one of the main things you might need influence for early in the game, or at any stage of the game really, are frontier outposts. A frontier outpost is something you can build with a constructor, and it costs 100 minerals, 200 influence, and then you still have to pay 1 influence per month in maintenance. So right now that would cost us 50% of all our monthly influence. But what this does is that it expands your borders, which means you can claim some systems in regions where you can't colonize any planets. So if you find a bunch of systems that have some important resources for you, maybe some strategic resources, maybe they have a lot of research, maybe you need them for any other reason, and you need to have them inside your borders, you can build a frontier outpost in that area. It's not cheap, but sometimes you really need one. You can also try to push against your neighbor's border, because let's say we had a neighbor right here. Or maybe this is not the best example, but okay, let's say we have a neighbor right here and he's pushing against our border. If we build a frontier outpost in a system that's right next to his border, this would push our border further towards him. And it might make a difference between a system being inside your border or inside his border. And then if you can push his border against him and grab a system that way, and that system has a planet that can be colonized, then you can start a colony on that planet and push your border towards him even more. You can kind of frog leap. It works sometimes, I did it a few times. I actually grabbed a system that I wouldn't otherwise be able to get, that was inside my neighbor's border, purely thanks to a frontier outpost. So anyway, we will go for monthly influence. And there's one more thing I wanted to talk about a bit. Policies, because I already showed you edicts that are empire-wide, but I didn't talk about policies up here. So policies are basically, well, policies that affect your entire empire constantly. They always have to be set to something, so it's not like edicts, which are active or not. Let's just start from top to bottom. First, we got war economy. And this is a bonus to production if you are losing a defensive war, but at the same time, a penalty to production if you are winning an offensive war. So this is used mostly in a situation where you don't plan to attack anyone, you don't plan to be aggressive, but you might have a problem with your neighbors attacking you. Or maybe you are losing a defensive war already, and you need that edge that will help you win. And this can give you a significant production bonus if you are losing a defensive war, up to +60% production, which is actually kind of insane. You only get 60% at -100 war score, at which point you are kind of screwed, but even +30% would be huge. This can easily make a difference between losing a war or being able to defend yourself and win. Right now it's set to semi-static. I could change it back to static. There's no real need to do that right now, but I could do it. Anyway, next up we got slavery. Right now slavery is prohibited. We can change it to allowed, which would allow us to enslave our population. There's also a xenos only option, and you can only use this one if you have the xenophobe ethic. Then you can enslave other species population. So the way slaves work is that if I go to my planet's surface and click on one of my pobs, there's an enslave option, which means I can turn this pob into slaves. You can also turn all pob of a specific species into slaves, or just one single one. And slaves get a happiness penalty, but at the same time they get bonuses to food and mineral production. And they get a penalty to energy and research. So they can be pretty useful for food and minerals. I could use a slave on this tile, for example, and then we would get bonuses to both food and minerals. I'm not really going to use slaves, I don't think so, but it can be a pretty good strategy, depending on your ethics. Anyway, next up, we got Purge. So right now, purging is prohibited. The Purge is an atrocity and should always be treated as such. You can allow only purging Xenos, or you can allow purging anything. However, you need to have a xenophobe ethic or a collectivist ethic to allow purging Xenos, and to allow purging anyone, you need to have a collectivist ethic. And Purge is another option that we got in here. You basically systemically decimate and remove this pop over time. It's a genocide, let's just call it what it is. You just kill that population. This will severely decrease the happiness of this pop. So why would you ever need this, you might be wondering? Well, you might if you have a species that just doesn't work with that planet type, for example. Or if you have a pop with different ethics that you do not want. Any number of reasons are valid, but it's considered to be an atrocity. But it can be useful in some situations, but still, you need to be either a xenophobe or collectivist to be able to use this at all. Otherwise, you can't use this ever. Then we got orbital bombardment. You can allow light bombardment, which means you will mostly target identified military targets while keeping civilian casualties to minimum. You can allow limited bombardment, which will allow the use of all but the heaviest of orbital ordnance, ensuring the majority of civilians will survive. Or you can allow full bombardment. However, you can only do this if you have the militarist ethic. The heavier the bombardment, the more troops on the ground you will kill. Kind of. I kind of like that some of these policies are restricted to specific ethics. It makes ethics more important than just for the bonuses from that specific ethic. Next up, we got migration. Right now, migration is prohibited. We can allow migration of primary species only, which basically means they can move between planets. Or we can allow free migration, which means all of our citizens would be free to seek their own happiness wherever they so desire. This can lead to your population living on friendly planets. So that's one of the challenges in colonizing planets with low habitability. If I colonize a planet with 30% habitability, for example, while having free migration, there's a good chance some of my population would migrate away from that planet, because why on Earth would they ever want to live there if they are constantly unhappy? And with 30% habitability, they would be capped at 30% happiness, which is pretty low. Next up, we got resettlement, which allows you to manually or forcibly relocate pops between planets. Right now it's prohibited. We can change it to allowed. Also, one thing I should mention is that if you change one of these policies, you cannot change it for another 10 years. So you can't just change back and forth. So if you are losing a defensive war, you can't just change this to versatile and then change it immediately after to avoid a penalty in an offensive war. You have to wait 10 years. Next up, we got voting rights. There are no voting rights for us because we are an enlightened monarchy. And we do not have elections. We just get an heir, and he will be the next ruler. So no voting rights for anyone. Next up, we got leadership. This is primary species only, there are no options here for us. All beings may not be equally fit for leadership, and we must decide who should be allowed to progress through the ranks. So this affects some government types, where you have some degree of choice over who's going to be the next leader. There are no options here right now, or there will never be options here for us unless we change to a completely different government type, because you always get the heir, that's right there, you can't change it. And the first contact protocol. We can be either peaceful or aggressive towards empires we make first contact with. And speaking of government, we could change our government right now, if we wanted it to. We can change to any valid government we want. And then we would have elections, for example, which would enable some of these policies. But I went for Enlightened Monarchy because I wanted to be an Enlightened Monarchy. Later on, you get more advanced government types with bigger bonuses. So, a more advanced version of most of these governments. Alright, and I think that's it as far as policies go. Let's unpause and continue. Right now, we'll be basically waiting for 350 minerals. I want to colonize both these continental planets as soon as possible, and it would be nice to find more. Let's send our fleet. We can see what's going on to one of these completely unknown systems, perhaps. And we should probably consider building a wormhole station, but I'll do that once I'm done with the first colony ship. Alright, we're done with this system. 9 minerals. I wouldn't mind having that inside my border. Alright, Tundra. Let's go to some unknown system. Which direction do we want to go in? Let's check this one. So, since we only got one wormhole station, we have to go back to the system with the wormhole station, and then we can jump. When you are jumping, you only need the wormhole station to be on one end of your jump. So either you have to be jumping from a system with a wormhole station or to a system with a wormhole station. Alright, I'm not going to fight these guys, that would be a bad idea. Yeah, that would be a very bad idea. What are these things? We don't know. Oh, beta aliens. We also had beta aliens here. I think we should research them. We are receiving a transmission. Okay. Well, someone made contact with us, because you can not only use the situation log to analyze aliens and make contact with another empire, they can do it other way around. And you actually get 3 different options how you want to greet them, and these depend on your ethics. So these options are specifically here because of our ethics. I'm not actually sure if you get a bonus or penalty to relations depending on which option you choose. I never checked that. Well, let's go with the first one. This is here because we are a pacifist. This changes everything. First alien encounter. And now that we made contact with another empire, oh, they are very close to us. They are pretty much our closest neighbor right now. Okay. Pause. What's going on? Oh yeah, another encounter. Alright. 178. We could maybe beat them if we get another ship or two. Right, let's go into contacts now that we made contact with another empire. And here they are. We can hover over their opinion of us. This is a similar system that's used in other Paradox games. So Europa Universalis and such. If you played these games, you will be quite familiar with how this works. So this is their opinion of us. Right now, it's in the negatives. And we got minus 20 because we're a new contact. This will eventually go back to 0 at a rate of plus 3 per year. We got minus 9 from border friction because they are our neighbors. Plus 20 from xenophilia because of their ethics, I believe. Yep, it's because of their ethics. We can click right here, and these are their ethics. Pause. So they are a collectivist. They are a xenophile, which means they have minus 10% xenophobia. And they are a pacifist. We are also a pacifist. And because we are both pacifists, we get plus 10. Plus 10 enlightened pacifists. That's because we have the same ethics. And finally, minus 5 because they are repugnant. So, the first thing we should do, if we want to improve our relations with them, is establish an embassy. We can only have a maximum of 4 embassies at the same time, and we get plus 1 because of our government. Normally, you can only have 3. And there will be a lot of empires in the game. So, I think you can see why that 1 extra embassy can be quite important. So this will increase our relations by plus 1 every month to a maximum of plus 100. I don't think we'll be able to do much just yet, but we can offer a trade deal. And there are all kinds of options here. So we could offer migration access, which would allow our population to migrate to their planets and their population to migrate to ours. However, we can't actually suggested right now because we do not allow migration. I would have to change my policy. We can exchange star charts, and they are not willing to do it just yet. They will not trade star charts due to their harmonious collective personality. So yeah, they will not accept this because they are collectivists. Fair enough. We can suggest border access. I'm pretty sure they won't accept any of these things just yet. Yeah, collectivists will not accept a lot of these kinds of deals, regardless of our relations. Alright. We could try to buy some minerals. They probably won't accept that either, but we can always try. I'm mostly just showing you how this works. Yep, it's at minus 1000 constantly. Wants to trade away less of the following. Alright, we'll wait for our relations to go into positives, and then we can try a few things. It won't take long, we were at minus 4 only. Your relations with the first empire you meet are normally worse, but we got plus 30 because of their ethics. So that's quite nice. We'll be in the positive soon enough. Alright, fastest speed, and we need to send our science ship somewhere. Let's have a look. Well, there are aliens around here. Survey this system right here. This one is actually inside our borders. It doesn't look that way, but this hex right here is what indicates whether that system is inside your borders or not. Sometimes it's not quite obvious when looking at it really zoomed out. You might think this system is not within my borders, but it actually is. And if you hover over it, you will get told whether it's inside your borders or not. So you can see, lies within Terran Alliance space. And that's because this hex right here is what indicates that. It can be a little bit misleading when you first start playing. Alright, well, fastest again. And we need one more month to start our first colony ship. And our neighbor also established an embassy with us, good. So that means we'll be able to maintain pretty good relations with them. That definitely won't be a problem. We got 352 minerals, and we can start a colony ship. And we will likely start from the planet that had 20 population. Yeah, 20 planet size. We'll grab that one first. 20 is a lot. It's more than our homeworld has. It's more than Earth has. Earth had 16. And now, once we get some more minerals, we'll get more buildings. I wanted to get started on that colony ship ASAP. Alright, well, I won't be able to grab these systems, because we can't colonize tropical or ocean. What's his preference? Can we actually see it? I don't think we'll be able to see it. No, you would have to be able to view his planets. Okay, that's fine. We can also see their relative power. So their fleet power is equivalent, their naval capacity is equivalent, and their technology level is equivalent to ours. We can see their attitude towards us, we can see how many colonies they have, and we can see their total empire population and diplomatic status. I can also see my total empire population in demographics. We have 10 pops across one world. Alright.
Anomaly found.
And we found an anomaly, nice. 15% failure risk. That's okay, and they colonized the planet already, alright. Well, I suppose that's fine. This system doesn't belong to anyone just yet. I don't like having a neighbor this close, but we'll be able to stay friendly with them, so it shouldn't be a big problem in the long run. Alright, what did we get? Encounter in Alpha Centauri. Oh, more aliens basically, alright. We should probably investigate some of these aliens, but I wanted the monthly influence a little bit faster, in case we decide to build a frontier outpost to expand our border somewhere. Ancient survey marker, alright. A small short-range transmitter has been located on the surface of Mythar 1. Okay, +4 energy on that planet, okay. So that will give it +4 energy. I assume. No, that was Mythar 1. Yep, there it is.
System
4
survey
energy.
complete.
And we finished the survey. Alright. We could survey that black hole system. Sure, why not? We can go check it out. I need to build up my fleet. I want to survey this system because it's within our borders, but I can't go there because there are hostile aliens. We'll have to take care of them. I think it's actually a good idea to build up our fleet a bit once we're done with the colony ship. We have to prioritize, and you definitely do not want to neglect your fleet, let me tell you that. You really don't want to neglect your fleet. Especially as you get into the mid-game. It will get slower and slower to increase your fleet strength significantly, because building bigger ships can take a while. You can't just build them instantly. If you need to increase your fleet strength like ×3 after you already get declared on, that's a little bit too late. If someone already declares war on you and you are completely unprepared, then you are in trouble, you really are. We'll grab the minerals as soon as we can. What exactly are you doing anyway? No, he's idle. Alright, so let's get the minerals
System
right away.
survey complete.
We cannot colonize this planet, so just move towards it for now. Survey is done. Our colony ship is also almost done. Were there any aliens in this system? I don't remember seeing any. Free engineering research from the black hole system. Okay, that's not bad. I definitely want to grab that. And there's our colony ship. So we'll grab this planet over here. That was the bigger one. We can right-click, then colonize planet. And we have to choose which tile our main colony building is going to be on. And this is kind of important because there's one thing I didn't mention, is that you get adjacency bonuses on certain buildings, mostly on your colonial capital or whatever you want to call it. All the adjacent tiles will get +1 to food, energy and minerals, but not to research. Which means we could place it right here, for example, and you lose the bonus from the tile you place it on. So I don't want to place it on top of, let's say, physics research, because I will lose that. But we could place it here, and then we'll get bonuses to these 3 tiles, on top of already existing bonuses on these tiles. I would also get +1 if I build a farm on this one, for example. But as a general rule, you get +1 to food, energy and mineral output. Not right away, because the first colonial building will not have any adjacency bonuses, but if I go to Earth, you can see the adjacency effect indicated right here, +1. Mineral, food and energy. That's what we are getting from planetary administration. The first building on a new colony will not be planetary administration, but we'll be able to upgrade it to planetary administration. Alright. We really need to build up our fleet. I'm going to send my fleet back to the orbit, because then we'll pay less maintenance. As your fleet gets bigger, the maintenance cost is actually insane if you don't keep your fleet in orbit.
Construction complete.
Your fleet maintenance is significantly cheaper if you keep the fleet on orbit of your existing planet, especially since there are some modules that you can build on spaceports that further decrease fleet upkeep. I think there's a -20% fleet maintenance cost module that you can build later on the spaceport. So the difference in maintenance can actually be huge. If you want to throw your entire fleet at something, you will lose a lot of energy per month by leaving the orbit with your entire fleet in the late game. And I do kind of like that, that does make sense. Anyway, that colony ship, it's still moving. So our border will expand as the planet grows, which means we will push this border a little bit towards our neighbors. It won't be enough to grab this system, but we will push our border towards them a bit. Are we there yet? Come on, bro. So the way this works is that we'll have to wait for the planet to grow to an actual proper colony. And we will pay additional 8 energy per month until it grows to a proper colony. Yep, first Terran Alliance colony. And that gave us 60 engineering research bonus. That's quite nice. Alright, let's do something useful with that construction ship. So we'll grab a research station on the black hole. Wait, this is not... This is inside our border, so we can be... Oh, we don't have enough resources yet, right? We need 15 more minerals. That's okay. I definitely want that. That's going to be a significant increase from +5 to +8. And I'll work on my fleet a bit, because we have to do something about the aliens over here in the Bogord system.
Research complete.
Our leader gained a level, but he didn't get any additional traits. And we finished our research, so now we'll get +1 monthly influence, which is a 50% increase. Also, since we are colonizing a planet that has blockers, we now have an option to research how to remove these blockers. There's just one active volcano in there. I don't think I want to waste time researching this. We could research the biolab, which is a science lab specialized in society research. Yep, let's grab that. The ion thruster is also almost done, and the fusion reactor is almost done. That's new components for our ships. Alright, carry on. I still got the edict that gives us additional society research, and I think I'll be keeping it for a while. Because there are a few important techs in society research that I want to get. I want to get some techs that will allow us to colonize other types of planets, not just continental. There's the ion thruster, and what are the options now? We can research spaceport level 2, so you need to upgrade your spaceports if you want to build bigger ships. Right now, we can't actually build any ships other than corvettes. But upgrading your spaceport level basically allows you to build bigger ships, and it unlocks additional module slots. We can't really build any modules, so there's no point rushing that research right now. We can also unlock the coil gun, which wouldn't be a bad idea, or we could unlock nano-composite armor for our ships. I think I prefer a better weapon. That would definitely help. It would increase our fleet strength. Yep, let's go for that. So, that construction ship. Oh yeah, he's already building it, right. Okay, that will boost our engineering research. And let's check some of these systems. I want to see if there are any aliens in there, so that we know in advance which systems we can survey safely.
System survey complete.
There, system survey is done. So this is also within our borders, which means we can grab the energy and the minerals. What next? These are already surveyed. Let's survey in this general direction, because there are a lot of systems in that direction. We are playing on a spiral galaxy. Yep. Let's just go all the way, perhaps. We could build a wormhole station somewhere around here to extend our range. Yep, let's just go all the way. We can jump to that one directly, which is quite nice.
Complete.
And our research is done. That unlocks the fusion reactor. And what can we get next? Solar panel network, which is a module for a spaceport. It would give us +3 energy. I might go for that because we will need energy. We can also get Sentinel Point Defense, which is a defensive module for our ships. It counters missiles, basically. And basic combat rolls, which gives us +10% fire rate and +10% weapons damage. Or a different version, +10% ship hull points and +10 chance to evade. I think I'll go for the solar panel network. There's no real reason not to build that on our spaceports. We can always remove it later if we need that slot for something more important. And I think this is a good moment to make a cut, so I'm going to continue in the next episode. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you next time.